and I was able to scale that business in a very short space of time and get a high valuation for it and sell it to a FTSE 100 company. I've always been interested in entrepreneurship and always wanted to build a business and ultimately to be able to sell that business. That's what I always thought kind of true entrepreneurship was, that you'd create this asset that you could actually sell. So I had been working as a business consultant and helping many businesses across various industries to solve the problem of how they sell their services. Because if they can sell it faster and they can sell more of them and they can charge a higher fee, just solve so many other problems in their business. I then met an accountancy firm in Manchester, solved that problem for them, and then another accountancy firm heard about it and said, how do we get some of that? And that was the spark I've been looking for. And then off the back of that, I commercialized it, turned it into a software product and scaled that business. My name is James Ashford. I'm the founder of GoProposal, which was a proposal software SaaS business for the accounting industry that helped accountants to price and sell their services more easily. I always wanted to run a business because I felt that it would give me freedom, and I'd attempted many businesses in the past, and none of them kind of worked out for various reasons. And then one business I had was the one that kind of failed fairly spectacularly, and had to lay off staff, had to remortgage the house, had to go back to my wife and say, you know, that business that I've been working really hard on, it's completely gone. And we split up off the back of that for some time, just like really went through the pain of that journey. From that, realized that there were gaps in my knowledge about entrepreneurship and running a successful business, and just started to learn. And what I wanted to do was to find the very best people in the world who could teach me systems and processes and effective ways of achieving success. And it was through that journey that I found Daniel Priestley, his books, and Dent. The thing with business advice and kind of business coaching is that there's so much bullshit out there, and it's very hard to decipher what's what. Like if you were a footballer and you wanted a football coach and David Beckham turned up and he started banging free kicks in from the halfway line, you'd be like, I need to learn from you. It's like obvious. But with business coaching, it's very different because you don't actually know if the advice you're getting is the right advice. And a lot of it is complicated. And the reason why people complicate business advice is for one of two reasons. Either they don't understand it fully themselves, or in making it complicated, they can sell you a product or something off the back of it. What Daniel does, like no one else, is to just cut through all of that and to make very complex business concepts very simple and understandable and actionable. So I can take all of this complexity, I can understand it very succinctly, I can take this framework that he's able to distill it down to, easily understand it, and actually make a difference in my business with it. So when we launched GoProposal, we bootstrapped the whole business. It was a SaaS business. We had fierce competition who'd had $24 million of investment. I was in a completely new space where no one had heard of me before. And when I started in the accounting industry, someone rang me up and said, you made a huge mistake going for this industry. I said, why? What's the issue? He said, they don't like spending money. They don't like people who are outsiders. They will hate anything to do with sales. You've made a real mistake. And I said, you know, thanks for the advice, but respectfully, they're human beings who have fears and hopes and dreams like everyone else. But what it did do, it alerted me to the fact that I've got some work to do here. And what I did was I took everything I'd learned from the key person of influence teachings and I implemented it to the letter. So I wrote a book very quick. It wasn't a great book to start with, but it got me out of the door. That book drove people back to a waiting list while I was developing the software. And then that book got me credibility. I started posting videos daily on LinkedIn because I knew that no one would be able to move as quickly as me with video content in that space. The video content got me speaking gigs at events. And then over the span of 5 years when I started that business, I became the highest rated speaker in the industry. Our webinars attracted the most numbers of people. And these, even against the likes of Xero and QuickBooks, who had huge budgets, our webinars attracted far more than those. My book is the highest rated book on Amazon in the world for how accountants should run their practice. I was the highest rated influencer on LinkedIn. from a vendor provider within the accounting industry. And all of that was from everything I'd learned through Key Person of Influence. I became a key person of influence, and it was a cheap way effectively to grow and scale my business. We never took investment. We were a really rare SaaS business in that we never took investment, and we were profitable after month 3. And that's because we had a very effective marketing strategy through me that was just driving continual leads into that business. Yeah, sure. So we, from starting that business, within the first few months, we'd got to kind of 10K a month of recurring revenue, which was enough to make the business viable, right? And then we just had these different milestones along the way. And the goal was to get to £1 million of ARR, of annual recurring revenue. And we just kept pushing the business, and we had continual growth throughout that entire period. And just prior to year 5, we got to £1 million in annual revenue. And then when we ultimately sold the business, we were at £1.5 million of annual recurring revenue that we generated organically, that we've done with, like I say, with no investment, with very effective, efficient marketing strategies. But here's the other thing, with this type of marketing, because you're leading with educational marketing, it's not just that you're attracting a lead, you're actually turning these businesses and clients into better customers in the first place. So they're turning up, better understanding what their problem is, better understanding where they need to get to, the mistakes they've made in the past in trying to get to that point, and exactly the framework that we can offer in terms of how we can solve their problems for them. Once we'd got the business kind of rocking and rolling and getting the leads in, the next thing I then turned my attention to was, how am I going to sell this business? Because that was ultimately the goal. How can I create this asset that I can sell for a maximum valuation? And I went on the 24 Assets course with Daniel, and it was fantastic, because what it showed me is how to take all of these kind of floaty things within the business and turn them into solid, valuable IP. And when we ultimately sold the business, they were highly valued. And all of the IP, the books, the videos, the community, lots of kind of frameworks that we developed, that we protected as well, all of those were bundled into the business, and it ultimately got us a maximum valuation when we came to sell it. Being an entrepreneur is really lonely, and you continually doubt yourself. You always think you're winging it. You think you're just making it up, and you're going to get found out at some point. And so all I wanted to do was to prove to myself, and to others probably, if my ego slips in a little bit, but I wanted to prove to myself that I knew what I was talking about, that I could deliver value to clients, that I could build a great team, that I could develop something of value to the point where another business wanted to buy what we developed. And all of that required me to continually change and evolve as a business owner. And we kept hitting these stumbling blocks on the way that I just couldn't get past. And rather than asking the question of, what do we need to do now to move past this? The question I started to ask myself was, who do I need to become in order to pass this? What are my limiting beliefs? What do I need to change around my thinking in order to overcome this next roadblock? And that's what we continually did to get to a point where we ultimately sold that business to a FTSE 100 PLC with a £2 billion revenue, and we had them bidding against another company for our little bootstrap business that we started, in the back of an accountancy office in Manchester. Amazing, exhilarating to get to that point where all of these strategies and ideas and all that hard work pays off. And I remember messaging Daniel afterwards, and I said, listen, if you ever need me to speak on an interview or a webinar or whatever, not that you need me to prove that your concepts work, they work, but if you ever need someone to kind of say that everything that you teach works, I am testament to that fact, in that I took it, I grew it in with fierce competition that had $24 million of investment against us who had nothing, but what we had was a better marketing strategy to be able to scale that business, develop assets, and ultimately sell it. What Dent do and what Daniel does really well is they give it all away in the books. So if you're looking for the knowledge to be able to go and do this, you can take his teachings in his books, in his videos, in his webinars, you can take it and you can go and implement it. If you need someone to guide you and to hold you accountable and probably help you to do it faster and to a higher level, then his courses are incredible value. As a business owner, you don't know what to spend your money on and you don't want to waste it, but there is no greater investment you'll ever make than in yourself and in developing yourself. And through these courses, you get direct access to the very best information, but also you meet incredible people as well. Like I say, as you grow your business, it's really lonely, and meeting other entrepreneurs who are thinking the same way, who have a great energy around them, is just so uplifting as well. And to have people holding you to account, I just think it's the best thing you could do for your business. The main focus I've got now is helping other businesses and to pass on my learnings. Not that I've figured it all out, because I really haven't, but I really did stumble across some things that enabled us to achieve perhaps a higher level of success than we should have been able to do given the resources that we had. So what I'm currently doing is I'm investing in a couple of businesses right now to help them to scale and exit these already established businesses. And the first thing I'm doing is helping them to implement a marketing system within their core, and straight away figuring out who are the people of influence that I can create within this business, and what are the assets that I can help you to develop so that we can ultimately get a higher valuation for this business at the end of it. So what I love about this type of stuff is that they're timeless principles. They will always hold true. It doesn't matter whether the technology changes or whether AI kicks in or whether there's a new advertising platform, whatever. That doesn't change the fact that if you can become a key person of influence within your industry and you can start to attract eyeballs and attention and start to bring in those leads, then you can solve so many of the other problems in your business. And so what I'm doing is taking my learnings and helping to implement that into these other businesses. Daniel has a great quote which really sums this up well, which is, if you want to become a key person of influence, it's not about being in the spotlight, it's about shining the spotlight. And there's a great story as well, which is the hero and the guide story, which you see in kind of Star Wars or in Lord of the Rings. And what you've got to do as a key person of influence is, you can't position yourself as the hero. You're the guide. And what you're doing is you're trying to create heroes, you're trying to shine spotlights on your customers and turning them into heroes as well. So very often throughout GoProposal's journey, we'd have people message us and say, thank you so much for everything you've taught us. We've implemented the strategy. We've increased our revenue by 50% or whatever. It's been incredible. Thank you for everything you've taught us. And I'm like, you've done this. All we've done is share a few ideas with you. You're the one that actually went out the door and charged more and, got that extra money in. Look at what you've done now. Imagine what you can do next. And then what we then ask is, can we celebrate that story with you? Can we share that story? But ultimately what we're doing is we're shining the spotlight on them. So if you want to become a key person of influence, it's so subtle. You can see different people and you'll think, I warm to that person, but I don't warm to that person. And the difference will be, one of them will be shining the spotlight on themselves and one of them will be trying to shine the spotlight on other people. My story in a nutshell is that I bootstrapped a SaaS business in an industry where nobody knew me. And I was able to scale that business in a very short space of time and get a high valuation for it and sell it to a FTSE 100 company. The way I did that was to take the learnings from Daniel Priestley and Dent and to position myself as a key person of influence within that industry to be able to ultimately attract the customers. I then used their 24 asset program to create assets within that business so ultimately we could get a high valuation, and that's exactly what we achieved. I've never skied before. Tomorrow is my first ever time skiing on a slope. I booked lessons to go and make sure that I don't kind of die on my first day, which is my main thing. But the reason why I came here was Daniel messaged me and said, do you want to come on this ski trip? And when I looked at it, I thought, I get learning, I get to meet some fantastic people, I get to push myself out of my comfort zone, learn some new skills, be in the mountains, I'm all in. And so I think you can overanalyze things like this and think, yeah, but how does it stack up and will I get my money back and all this stuff? It's like, look, for 4 days, you can be able to focus on yourself, be around some incredible people, some great energy, meet Daniel, learn some fantastic things and go back completely refreshed, ready to smash your business.